Good afternoon to you all. Welcome to the second panel, Future of Work and Learning, Remote versus In-Person. Before I introduce you to our panelists, I'm going to tell you a few words about myself, because I recently went through both on remote and in-person learning. In 2003, 20 years ago, I graduated from RIT and I went to work for Carnival Cruise Lines in the United States to work as an event manager. I worked there for about 3 years. I came back to Split and I worked for the Le Meridian Lab in Split in the events and groups department. I did that for a few years. I got married in 2007. And basically, I spent my 30s as a stay-at-home mom because I have 4 kids. In 2021, I decided to go back, and in my 30s, I basically did a lot of interior design for me, my family, my friends, and I fell in love with it. And in 2021, I decided to go back to get my interior designer degree, so I decided to go back to school. It was perfect timing because also at that time, one of Croatia's most famous interior designers, Mirjana Mikules, she opened her school in Split, and it was a course of 2 years. After the first year, you are an interior stylist. After the second year, you're an interior designer. And I basically, at the start, knew I wanted to do the course of 2 years. The first year was a normal in-class, in-person classroom. We had lessons. I got my degree as an interior stylist, and I was waiting for the second year to start. And at the beginning of the second year, like 1 month before, I got an email saying that there are not enough candidates in Split to go for the second year, so I either have to go remote or I have to do in-person lessons in Zagreb. For me, both options were very hard. First, to go to Zagreb to leave 4 kids under the age of 13 at home was impossible because also my husband doesn't work in Split, so that was complicated. Second, to do remote, that would mean me at home 2 times a week, for 6 hours in my room, and I would have like 4 kids banging on the door, like, "Mom, open the door." I do have nannies, but when you're at home, no nanny can help you. So, so that's a little funny story, but everything turned out great. I graduated, got my interior designer degree. Also, last month, Croatia's most famous online magazine, lifestyle magazine journal, nominated my office as the best interior project for October. So I guess I did a good job. It was a good pat on the back. And I'm so looking forward to seeing what our panelists have to say on this topic, because I believe it's very interesting. So let me first introduce to you Ms. Havelka Meštrović, our research associate and senior lecturer at RIT. Kristina Sardelić, recruitment specialist at AMS. Erik Leko, HR specialist at FOREO. And Team Luketa, our international business student. I'll take maybe a microphone. Okay, so for the beginning, I would like to ask all our panelists to share their personal experience and insights on remote work and learning. Miss
Okay,
Anna,
thank you very much. Is it working? No? Yes? No, it's working? No?
This one's working.
but it's set on, so it should work. Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Work? Okay. So, hello to everyone. As a professor at RIT Croatia, it was a very challenging time to move from in-class environment into an online environment. So, basically, even though I have plenty of working experience, I'm not so young anymore, but it was my actually first online experience when the COVID started, when we needed to move into an online environment. And it was actually my first contact with the Zoom platform in that sense. So I was familiar with the Skype, with some Skype calls when I'm in States or something like that. But it was the first time when you have the audience that is actually not in front of you. And must admit that it was a very challenging time, and it was something that as I'm a clinical psychologist and I usually work with people, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a professor, so usually I have the people in front of me, and even in clinical setting very close to me. And it was something that I've realized that obviously when you have someone and you're seeing nonverbal communication, you're seeing the postures, the gestures, the facial expressions, it is totally different thing. And my question back at that time was, how come that online education actually survived? Because we know that lots of even Ivy League universities moved into online education way before the COVID time, because it makes some sense to some extent. And then with the time passing, of course, we all get used to it. I can nowadays see some advantages of online education. But also, especially from the psychological perspective, I do really think that in-person contacted communication is something that we've heard, artificial intelligence, the Zoom, all these things, it's very difficult to replace the human touch, let's say like that. Okay?
Thank you. Kristina?
Well, as far as education, I graduated at RIT in 2018, so back then it wasn't really a thing about remote work or remote education. So I was one of those that went through the 4 years in person, and I'm glad that I am, but that's probably kind of contradictory to me working remotely at the moment. So when it comes to work, when I first started working, I went from, I was basically expected to be in the office every day, so 5 days a week, and it was normal for me. It was kind of no question asked. I remember at the time some of my more senior colleagues in the company, they were sometimes they used to work 1 day a week or 1 day a month work from home, and I remember I used to kind of be a bit jealous of them, I won't lie, because I thought that, oh, you know, they have this privilege, but I did not dare, you know, ask to work from home myself, let alone a few years later did I know that we'll all kind of go through that when the pandemic started. But then my most recent job now, my client is based outside of Croatia, so basically they don't care in a way where I am, if it's Zagreb, if it's anywhere, basically, as long as I do my job. So for me, it's worked really great, because I also have my family who doesn't live in Zagreb, they live in Korčula, so it's quite far away, and I don't really have to worry about, you know, missing family gatherings or things like that anymore. So for me, it was a huge change at the beginning, because I did think, okay, now when I have the choice of staying at home and working from home, you know, when the alarm goes off in the morning, I'll probably choose to stay at home, and that way, you know, weeks go by and you just continue working from home every day, and you get used to it. But few years later, I can definitely say that that it has been great for me. I am also lucky that I have the opportunity to also come to the office as well, because we do have an office in Zagreb. So when I feel like I miss that interaction, or there's some projects or things that I work on with my colleagues, and I think it will be easier to go in person, I have that choice, so that's great. But on the other hand, this remote work has definitely brought me a lot of other advantages.
Thank you, Kristina. Erik?
Thank you. So I actually graduated in Dubrovnik, class of 2021. So I had the opportunity both of studying live at the premises and doing last 20 years. So third year was fully remote, and then 2021 was we could choose between remote or in person. And I did in person, so you can already think what I think of remote. And actually, having the experience to at least study, I understood that study remote. I understood that remote thing is not particularly for me. It's not something that makes me happy. My way of thinking is that I have to go somewhere. As Miss Anna said, I got used to speaking with people. I mean, in HR, everything is about the people that you work with. So, and it's much easier for me to do it in person than remote. From the first job I had, actually, from Grand Circle to relocating to Malta to work for a recruitment agency. And then coming back to Zagreb and started to work with FOREO last year. All of the positions and all of the companies that I worked for were fully from the office. And they were not even flexible. So that brings us then to future question during the panel. But yeah, I had the opportunity, if needed, I had the flexibility, and it is nice to have the flexibility, especially as Kristina mentioned, you are traveling away to visit family. My family is not also from Zagreb, so it would be nice, but everything is manageable. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Dean?
Well, I'm the first generation that's actually remote. I started in 2020 when the COVID started, pandemic. I mean, it was hard to adapt. It was a shock to the system, actually, to actually change your type of learning, where actually you can't see face-to-face person. You can't, when you give it a task, you can't actually ask professor, okay, can I actually do this? You need to type in your email. But yeah, I mean, in the end, now, I think that a lot of students liked this remote learning because they are feeling much easier to learn and study and actually do exams from home or from the place. They are feeling comfortable. They can easily remember, oh yeah, I studied that in this place, I'm gonna write their exam. But when they're studying and, I mean, when they're doing exams in a classroom, it's harder for them to remember or something like that.
What do you think, Tina, are the pros and cons of remote work, and how is it getting you ready for future work?
At our college, I think that for me, as I have a lot of activities outside of the college, I can actually listen to a lot of classes wherever I wanted to listen. I have a soccer practice, so I would study there, I would listen to the class there. When class is done, I would go and play soccer. I didn't have something like that when I was in class in person because my college was on the other side of the town, my club at the other, and a lot of traveling was, I mean, it took a lot of time. I think that the worst part is missing out on the student life. You can't build strong relationships with your classmates, go out on a drink, and I think that it's in later, I mean, when we would be a businessman or something like that, it would feel, when we would be older, that we didn't have those connections, we don't know people so good that we want to do a job like with them. But in the end, I think that professors and our education, our institution is actually helping us a lot when we would go look for a job, as right now we are one of the generations that learn the most through remote learning, and I think that we are, I mean, ready for jobs like that, remote. We know how to communicate properly, we know when we receive tasks what actually people are requiring us to do, and when we don't know, we actually communicate what needs to be done.
Thank you. How can businesses and educators foster a sense of community and collaboration among remote workers and learners, which is often easier to achieve in traditional settings? Anna, please.
Yeah, it depends. Like we've heard the theme, so probably it depends also from the perspective of generations, and different generations will see it a little bit differently. And of course that for the businesses, I'm not working in a big company, but from the standpoint of psychological approach, we believe that what people usually want to have and what they need is something that we've heard in the previous panel. It's called authenticity and to some extent the freedom. So working from home one day or just some kind of combination, if suits to someone, it could improve the level of happiness and improve the productivity of the whole company and whole working process. On the other hand, we have the people who are not seeing them to work like that, so in that mode. From my personal experience, I thought it's an awful thing to work from home. Well, I have 2 small kids, and it was always challenging to grandmothers, nannies, and all of these things. It was really challenging to stop them to scream in front of students or something like that. But now when I'm thinking about, okay, going every day to work, being in a traffic jam, not having the freedom to choose maybe should I stay at home today and still get the job done, having the meetings and do everything what I'm supposed to do, it could be also frustrating. So if we get used to it, it might be good from the perspective of the companies to maybe give the freedom to employees, and then those who really want to have 1 or 2 days, I don't think it's okay to being fully remote due to these interpersonal relationships, and we need to have some meetings, seeing each other, having an events and all of these things together, but maybe it could be dependable on what your employee actually wants. And I've noticed that the different professions sees it a little bit differently. From IT, probably will understand that better. We have a lot of people from IT whom they're not seeing that it's some personal touch so important that they don't even want to go to the office or even want to see some colleagues. So why to force them if we have the technology nowadays that allows us to work like that? On the other hand, like I've said, if I have a client or the psychotherapy, I know lots of my colleagues move the psychotherapy in online mode, but it's not the same. Student classes, all of these things. So just I think that it depends on the company, on the topic, on the professions, on the goal that they actually would like to achieve. Online marketing, online shopping. Sometimes I'm buying online, but I also like to touch something that I'm buying. So usually you have the combinations in all of us of the both things. So.
Kristina, you?
Well, I definitely agree that it depends a lot on the type of job or probably the industry. I know some jobs are definitely much easier to do remotely, and for some jobs you cannot do that. But just like Professor Anna said, it's definitely, I think, not fair in a way to assume a one-size-fits-all approach. We're not all the same, and of course someone will find working from home as something that they don't enjoy. Maybe also depending on the time or period of life that you're in. There's many different reasons. But yeah, definitely that flexibility and that option to choose. Now, if you like to go into the office. If not, or if there are days, I do personally have days as a working in recruitment where sometimes I have 6, 7 interviews a day, and sometimes if they go on for half an hour or an hour, that's literally about 7 hours, almost the entire day. So sometimes I did used to find myself going into the office and actually not really seeing my colleagues or being with them, because I would have to book a meeting room or go into a separate office and spend literally the whole day there interviewing. So in a way I would then come home and think, okay, I could have done the same thing at home as well. I kind of wasted time on commute. So again, I guess depends on the nature of the role and depends on the industry and of course the person's.
But I think also, if I can just add, I think also that depends on the lifetime in which you are currently, where your employee is currently. Have kids, not have kids, so being very young, being old, being at the beginning, so being new at that company or working for the company more than 10 years. So if you are new, you really need to come and to see the company, to see the people, to see the colleagues. So also depends on probably the time frame to some extent. I was frustrated always with the traffic jam before the COVID, and then when we started with online education, my only thought was, oh, when I will sit in my car, turn on the radio, and being alone listening to music and driving somewhere. So it's changed.
Erik, your thoughts?
Can you please repeat the question?
How can businesses and educators foster a sense of community and collaboration to workers and students?
We talk too much, so you slow yourself.
Well, I mean, they pretty much said everything, but for me, as a very extroverted person, that just I'm not productive, or I do not function well when I'm alone. So I'm very like a people person. For me, the best would be to have some kind of flexible, so hybrid model of work, not fully remote. I don't think this is good for the well-being of people. Maybe some sectors or departments within the company that are more naturally introverted, or they like doing, I know, for example, all of our programmers, software engineers, data engineers, tech-oriented people, they tend to prefer working from home because nobody can then nudge them, or bother them live. Especially when you work in open space, in open space offices. However, I would prefer. It's still nice when the guys come, and then at least once a week, because then you can catch up, get a coffee. Okay, maybe for them less work is done in the office and more work is done from the home, but it's always nice, to have that sense of community.
So team building, I think,
Yes.
would be great for the company.
Yes, especially, for example, for me, so I'm in FOREO for 1 year, and we have DevOps engineers, so the guys that work on the infrastructure and taking care of the system. I saw the colleague, I think after 7 months of work, it was the first time that I met him, and it was amazing. And now as we are changing policy constantly to moving fully from the office. For them, you cannot move them fully to the office, but to come twice a week at least. It's very nice, and you can catch up, and we share some same interests. So it's really, for me, like, you can do events over VR or AR or over Zoom, but it will never be the same as in person. So some kind of combination for me in these times is probably the best choice.
Thank you. And Teen, when you're remote, did you ever feel like left out of the classroom?
Well, not so much. I mean, when I would like to connect to your previous question about the educators and how they foster the community. I mean, I had a lot of classes where our professors required from us group projects, and those group projects would be all over the semester. And we would get new tasks every week. So our professors were required from us to meet via Zoom with our team members, and we would actually work it out. I think I would completely agree with Erik that right now something like this, to be in hybrid mode, is really essential, to talk to your people like face to face, actually know how they look, how tall they are, and actually what they are. But in the end, this remote work and the community through remote work is something that's hard to obtain. But if you have people who actually want to do it, I think it's not so much a hard problem.
Thank you. Erik, for your question, how has the perspective on remote work and learning changed, and what trends can we expect in the future?
So before COVID, I believe that in Croatia, remote working was far away story. And then, I mean, I was a student at RIT, and I know how it went. It basically went overnight. So, and the professors were also unprepared the first year, and like the classes were mixed up, or we couldn't have. So, but as the time passed, so until 2022, everything was like going mostly remote because of the distancing. But now I do see that more and more companies, I'm excluding the IT sector, but more and more companies are going back to the office fully. However, from the from recruitment perspective now, when we are looking for new personnel, so for new employees, the most common question is it a hybrid model? Can we go? Is it fully remote? So and it's not even those who are supposed to be very extroverted positions. They also want that flexibility. So I believe in like next few years, I think it will be a must for each and every company to at least have once a week opportunity for people to work from home. But I do not believe that more and more companies will go fully remote because of that social part. For the fully remote companies, as technology is advancing, I do believe that it will be more immersive. So and it will be even more fun than Zoom and meeting and playing games over internet together. But with advancement of VR, like the glasses or AR, I believe that even those fully remote positions will feel like they are together live. Yeah.
Thank you. Kristina, the world has become a smaller place with remote work. How is this affecting the global workforce in terms of international teamwork and cultural diversity?
Well, I would definitely say that as a recruiter as well, what I do see is more and more companies being open to hiring remotely. They sometimes don't care even if the person is based in the same country as they are. I do understand that, of course, sometimes it comes from a cost saving perspective as well, to be real. But people do tend to look at it, okay, if I don't know, you can do a great job from Croatia, why would I care if I'm hiring from the UK, for example, why would I care that you are based here? So in that sense, I think it does add to the cultural diversity. I did before my current job, I did work in Sydney in Australia, and I did always used to look at it, how great would it be, because obviously Australia being a multinational country, I did always look at it, it would be great to be able to be a part of a global team or a multinational team in Croatia, which is probably not so common. So from that perspective, now being in the position that I am, and I have my manager in the UK, a team lead in Hungary, colleagues in across EMEA basically, hiring managers in the US as well, across APAC too. So also candidates that I speak to, they are also from all over the world. So for me, it has been great to see that and to kind of be able to still interact from Croatia, interact with people from other parts of the world. I do understand that it's probably not the same, because I'm not meeting and seeing all of those colleagues or candidates in person, but still it is something. So from that perspective, I definitely do think it adds on to that cultural diversity standpoint as well.
Thank you. Now a question that we all ask ourselves, I think, every day, and this is for Anna. With the shift to remote work and learning, how do you see it affecting people's mental health and how well-being?
I think I've responded a little bit in the previous one on that. Yeah, of course, that it could have an impact on the mental health, but I don't want to sound negative. I think that from the perspective of the previous question, the productivity also could have some benefits for the productivity, the online working environment too, and also this more being open-minded, working with the different type of people, the different cultures. So usually when we are pointing out this type of questions, the more often response would be, yes, it will have an impact on our mental health and it will impact us more negatively. Which I think we are narrowly biased to the COVID situation, and I think we didn't move into online environment in a healthy way. And that is why we are prone to say it could have a negative impact on our overall well-being or mental health. But I think if we are entering into the phase in which, like I've said before, we have the opportunity to choose, we have an opportunity to work with maybe different countries, you don't need all the time to travel. RT Croatia, we had two campuses often having meetings before the COVID with one campus online. So it is impossible to work like that if we will neglect and if we will say that no, it is something that we don't need to have, or it is something that influenced badly on us. So I think that if we would like to save our mental health, it is just important that we decide everyone for ourselves. So like we've heard, someone is an extrovert, someone is an introvert. Some companies, they have this goal, another is another goal. I know the famous company Google, they've invented the day off, the day like working from home 28 years ago. So it was way before the COVID. And what they've found, increasing the productivity. When you are at work, grab a coffee, open offices, talk with someone, you are working from home, you are maybe more efficient. And then it comes, if you are so efficient, will you end up in a burnout syndrome, or will it affect your mental health? So for all of those people who choose or work from home more often, it is just important to find the balance between this home work environment. So if you're cooking, do cook. If you're playing with kids, play with kids. If you are having a meeting, have that meeting. So just not merge or combine all of those activities that happens during the pandemic, probably to all of us, but just now when we are in a regular time without the pandemic, when we can choose just for saving the mental health or have some benefits, it would be okay to stick with the job like you stick at the company. I'm working from, I don't know, 9 till 11. Then I will have the short break. In that short break, okay, I'm at home, maybe can do something that half an hour, will not grab a coffee with a colleague, will do something else, and then get back to work. And trying not to work 20 hours daily because you are here and they have access, you are seeing everything, answering on every emails. I know that I've noticed few years ago that I'm answering on the students' mails at 11 p.m. And then I've stopped to do that. I've said to myself, look, there is really no need. It's I'm not a neurosurgeon, cardiac surgeon, nobody will die. I will answer in the morning when the working day will start. Again, I will not respond during the weekend if it's my choice, if I don't need to, if it's not something urgently, and usually for the most professions it's not so urgent to respond. When I started to think about my own mental health, it's when one student of us approached and said, oh my god, professor, you respond to email at, it was even some, not 11, it was even later at night. I was, okay, now I really need to think about saving my mental health. So just having the boundaries would save a lot in that field. No matter if it's remote, not remote, but just being more aware that remote, it's also working. You're working, and set some boundaries and some schedules might help. Time management.
And I also wanted to mention, my friend, she wants to arrange like a workshop in Split, and she's calling she's an influencer, and all these women are writing to her, and she set at a time, a date, and they're all like, we don't want to meet in person, let's do online. So she's like, what's happening? Like, come on, get out of the house, get dressed, let's mingle, let's talk. But I think
people
that
get
can be a
used
problem.
to
Yes.
And of course,
scared of socializing, right?
Of course, and from the perspective, for sure, the physical appearance, gaining weight, all of these things, it was something that we've seen during the pandemic. And yes, I don't need to dress well because I'm working from home, and then it might start to impact the social life. The mental health, the health, depression, and overall all of these things, like working in pajama from home sounds interesting for a day or two, or when you're very young, or just if it's a rainy day. But doing it all the time could really lead to some depressive symptoms and anxiety.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for you all. In your opinion, what is the one single most important advice for students and professionals trying to navigate the future of learning and work in a rapidly changing world?
We can start maybe from there. So I have a feeling that I'm talking too much professional information.
I mean, I'm the youngest here, so I don't think that I have a lot of let's say advice for something like that. But in my personal experience, I would say to try it in hybrid mode, to actually find out what you like, what you don't like, and in the end, where are you the most productive? I think that's the best way to actually, move forward in the business world and actually in remote learning.
Thank you.
For me, this will sound a bit crazy, but talk to yourself, like be objective, and have a nice little chat with yourself in the mirror or while laying in the bed. And I believe the most important thing in life, I mean, you do work, it's a big part of your life, but it's not your life, the work. So the most important thing would be to have a chat with yourself and see what suits you, what you prefer, how bad or what work-life balance you want. Do you want fully remote, hybrid, or fully in person? And then chase that. It makes no sense to go for something that doesn't suit you, because you will probably work it out for 6 months, 1 year, and then have a complete burnout, and then start looking for something else that maybe again will not suit you to the fullest. So, like, talk to yourself and see what you really want to do, how you want to do it, and I believe then everything will be okay after that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So probably further to this, I guess being honest to yourself, and as a recruiter, I always obviously get asked, is this job, can I work from home or go into the office? Am I kind of forced to go into the office? That's the language, I guess, that's used mostly. But being honest to yourself in the sense that if you have applied for a job where you see that going into the office every day is mandatory, and you know that that doesn't work for you, don't just take that job for the sake of taking it if you know that long term that won't be something that you will be happy with. And of course the other way around as well. But also just probably a thing which is maybe a bit more aimed at people managers or team leaders. I guess that the big focus will be moving forward on that performance management part, because I guess with remote working, one of the things that does come up a lot from people managers is how do I manage my staff if I don't see them in person. So probably just for businesses in a way worldwide to think about that, how can we get around this, and how can we obviously use the technology in our advantage for this, and just think of of a way that that will, you know, work best for everyone, and not, of course, assume that everyone will have the same opinion or same approach or preference.
Thank you.
Yes, basically what I've said at the beginning of this panel, so authenticity. Not only like listen to yourself, seeing work-life balance, trying to find out what suits you the most, but also being aware that maybe the comfort zone is not always the best for you, and also you need to expose yourself, even though you are anxious, even though you are afraid of something. It is also important to realize that you need to, like, having a fear, should I go to the office or will they force me? Or sometimes people are afraid of specific situations, like talking in front of the audience. And then, yes, and then if you will constantly avoid them and you will have the opportunity to avoid them, you also can't personally grow. So listen to yourself. It's of course important, but also it is important that you are honest towards yourself, and that you start to ask, what do I want to achieve, and what is my goal from the perspective of career and personal life. So it's not always avoiding the things. So I believe that finding the balance between talking with yourself, talking with others, expose yourself would be the best match.
Thank you all. We have finished with the second panel, and now we continue with the program.